Regions.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, Angela, you've got the roll call.
Hey, Josh Marvin,
Here.
Matthew Betchel,
Present.
Tina Tucker,
Present.
Bob Dalton,
Here.
Deborah Northern.
Present.
Okay. We have Wally Shreves and Nancy Patton absent. So we have a quorum.
Okay, time reports, for those that have not turned in any time reports, you need to get those to Angela.
So-
Do they necessarily need to fill a form for that, or they just shoot you an email?
No, just shoot me an email. Wally sent me one for your Ivy poll the other day. However, I have had only maybe one email about the Arbor Day, so I need everybody to send me their hours for that so I can get those included. So,
He's here.
so,
So again, if you have not turned in time reports for Arbor Day and for the work we did on Monday, get those to Angela, please.
Monday, you don't need to. Wally sent that to me.
Oh, okay, he's got that in.
Yeah,
there,
he included all the names on it. So,
Okay. Anything else on that, Angela, for time
Nope.
reports? Okay, the meeting minutes you had in front of you, Angela sent those out ahead of time. She asked to make sure that when we do get those, we read them ahead of time. So when we come to the meeting, we don't spend a lot of time reading through those. So for those that haven't read them, if you scan through them real quick.
we have one correction. Matthew made me aware that his last name is spelled incorrectly, so I will correct that.
Have the rest of you read them, or? Everybody's got them?
Yep.
Any comments or corrections other than what Angela said with Matthew's name? See head shakes, so I take it there are no other. So do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I move we approve the minutes.
Do we have a second?
I second it.
Motion's been to accept the meeting minutes.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, the next item on the deal is public comment. We have Luke Rice here. Luke, if you want to come right up here, we put you always front and center. We need your name
Hi, my name is Luke Rice.
and we have your address here, so we've got the information we need. So welcome.
Thank you. This is my first meeting and I thought I had to sign that in order to speak at all. So I just wanted to make sure that I had all my bases covered before the meeting started.
Okay,
That's all. So
that was it.
That was it. Yeah.
You're a forthright, good public comment. So we don't get a lot of them, but we'll duly noted. So we thank you for being here. So,
Thank you.
all right.
Appreciate your help this weekend.
I do want to say something about Luke. He's a fabulous piano player. You guys ever need somebody to play piano? This guy is it. And the piano I had outside my store, he came and played many times. The one that Kelsey actually took for her son.
So you'll be on stage at the Harvest Festival next year for the piano. I don't know where we'll get the piano, but so anyway,
Thank you for helping at the median planting
Yeah.
event. I remember you from that.
we can have pretty loud. Yeah.
I got it.
So the next item down under old business is beautification committee. I don't know, Greg, do you have anything? I know the Ashley. Never.
But you have to walk up there.
You're gonna have to get over that microphone, Shy. So, well, I think the planning of the median strip, that's all completed, correct?
That is correct, and we did get the irrigation go.
first tried this, but I didn't know I could really actually do that. Wow. Take one of the batteries out next time. half the deal, so. Anything else on beautification?
No, I just know everything's looking good. They got flowers. They've got them planted in multiple locations. I think at the signs. I know coming in, I saw it yesterday. If you're driving east into town, those entrance signs are already planted, and I know we were working out irrigation on Highway 228. I don't know if those were done yet, but I like the colors this year.
Yeah.
They're really
Look
nice.
nice.
Give it another week or two, and they will really be, I guess, popping. So
And for those on this committee that participate in helping them out, I send out my appreciation for the group that does that. And the beautification is always looking for volunteers. So if you know others that would like to help that, raise your hand and point them in that direction. So, all right, thank you.
I don't know, because Patty did bring it up and now she wants it, but the sign that's on the Welcome to Sweet Home, the Rotary and the other one, they were just kind of curious about that.
in what way?
I guess they've never seen them there and they were attached to the Welcome to Sweet Home. sign.
They were actually purchased by Rotary. And if you look at most city signs, when you come into town, they'll not only have Rotary, they'll have Kiwanis, they'll have, and I think that's what we're looking for is partnerships and sponsorships. And so we were approached by Rotary well over a year ago, and they purchased some signs, and it took a while for us to get them up. And so we actually picked the location. We'd like to actually mount them on the left of the sign. But we felt we had a lot of space right there below it, and it kind of worked out. So
Thank you. Next, we have the Weddle Bridge. I know Angela sent out a packet or provide us with a packet. I did go through last night at home and read that, and I go, wow. That's about all I could say, Blair, was wow. Definitely a lot of work to be done on that, but it was great to see a report that was taking place. So Greg, if you have more you want to add to that right now, I mean.
we need grant money. I think that's probably once we digest this report, this is one of our focal points for one of our biggest parks. I think now that we recognize we have something in writing, that we have some concerns about it, I think it gives us some discussion points of planning and also trying to figure out what the costs are for that plan and how we're going to fund it. I think that's still probably yet to be determined. And I would imagine this group will probably be involved in some form fashion. So.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised. Like I said, when I took out my calculator and added up the numbers real quick, I was over 90,000, just an estimated repairs, because I'm sure there's going to be some hidden cost in there, or those costs will get inflated more over time with materials. And
the great thing is that it is divided up into relatively manageable chunks. And so it reminds me of what my mom used to say. She's a music teacher. When I was practicing, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So there's a lot of bites here. But as you're talking to folks in the community, and especially the donation campaign for Sankey Park, feel free to stick Weddle Bridge in there in the conversation, because it is near and dear to many people's hearts, and we want to keep it a wonderful asset for the community for many years to come.
And that might be an item too, as we do move forward with it, to put out those findings of that report in our paper, so people get a taste of what we're up against on that. But
Yeah.
I agree with what you said, Blair. The components in there, I start breaking them down. Says, okay, what's the major one that needs to be done first? And it's like, okay, supports underneath this guy is pretty important. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm a little, especially in today's market, a little skeptical on costs, right? The type of wood that we're dealing with here in planks, you just can't run to Home Depot and say, hey, I want to order this. It's not like that. It's not a normal contractor that would be doing this work. It's specialty type work. So I just want to make sure that we all keep that in mind when we start digging into this and start probably putting out some quotes, or, trying to figure out what the costs are. So just my concerns just right out of the gate. It's just there's not a lot of people that do this type of work. especially in Oregon.
And do you see that, Greg, as something that Public Works as a committee, I mean, a group would break that down, or would you see this group being part of that, or even a subcommittee of just bridge committee that actually attacks this thing? I know that's a loaded question, but
I think a lot of it is funding based. I think as we look at the funding that we have available, we're going to categorize it based on these recommendations of what's the most urgent, but also what is the most affordable for us to be able to handle, because some improvement is better than no improvement. So that's remains to be seen. We certainly are open to your recommendations of what you think the priority needs to be as we look toward finding funding to get this done.
I think the one thing that kind of stuck out in my mind a little bit because of the report itself was, you know, we connect that bridge with the Jamboree group, and I saw that little piece in there that says, really look at this bridge as to what you can, how many people you can put on this bridge. So, I mean, there was a little bit of a flag popped up there. I don't know how major that is, but it is a concern of if the integrity is jeopardized, which it sounds like it is, you know.
When I go to the Jamboree, and a lot of people here in this room, when you go across that bridge, when it's time for another concert, the whole bridge goes like, okay, I think we're gonna make this. Maybe they need to put 20 people at a time or something walking across it. I don't know. Did this
Good
report,
input.
did he say a safety issue? How many people could be on it or anything?
He just recommended that we have an analysis done on what kind of load it can handle. And I think putting out a donation bucket at both ends of the bridge during the
That's
Jamboree is a
awesome.
great idea.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know,
Yeah.
That's a really
let's,
good idea.
one of those nice big ones that are clear that you can see how much money people are putting in or not putting in.
So you probably need to talk to Robert about this and suggest that.
So there will be more to come on this. Obviously, we're just all diving into this. We
Yep.
all have things that are popping out to us, and we have really had this a couple days. And so we need to vet it. We need to think about, but again, figure out what our concerns are, what our plan is to get to that end point, and what are the costs to get there. And also keep in mind that if you piecemeal this, that sometimes there's going to be rework or things need to be taken off and put back on, and maybe just be better to go, if you're going down to braces, let's make a project and do it all at once. So it's just my thoughts.
I have a question for you, Greg. You said you're skeptical about these numbers. Are these lowballed numbers? Do you expect them to go up?
So my experience over the last 3 years and all the projects I'm doing, we get good estimates. We feel we're in the ballpark, but then there's a supply and demand of contractors and specialties and stuff. And also there's certain widgets that become more expensive or harder to obtain. And so these costs are just estimates. They're just high up 30,000 feet. This is what it could be. So until you really dive down in and know exactly the type of work that you're going to be doing, those costs are skeptical to me. So they're just estimates. They're just ballparks to say, hey, you need to be thinking like this. But once we develop a project, we know all this has to be done. The materials at that time, the contractor's labor, all these things come into factor when you actually get down to bid a job. And at that time, those numbers then become real. You also want to carry a small contingency in case they get in and there's something that needs to be done while you're in there. And that's usually, probably in this project, a couple percent. So just think about all those things when you start trying to bring somebody on. You know, these are just ballpark figures.
So after you get through this report, I mean, Blair and Greg, obviously you go to city council and kind of show what your findings are. That hasn't been done yet,
So
obviously.
this is the first group that has looked at this report besides staff. I think that it probably should go to the council to make them aware of the condition and what needs to be done, especially aware of the need for funding. It's one of those things where I'd love to publicize this as much as possible, but I also don't want people to take it the wrong way and
Yeah.
freak out that it's unsafe. I think that we should be concerned about the Jamboree and for large numbers of people, but I think for everyday use at the park, it's probably just fine.
Do you have anything, Dave?
Yes, I do, Mr. Chair, if I may.
Sub-chair.
On page 20, where it says that we are responsible for anything that happens on that bridge, and this concerns me really bad about the Jamboree. I don't know what the council would want to do with that, but we are responsible for anybody that falls through that floor and all that stuff. It's the the last sentence in that, on page 20. That's scary to me. So I think we need to get something done soon before Jamboree, and it's pretty quick. So whether we have to close now, it'll be inconvenient for them to get their people back and forth there, but I don't know if we can afford the chance of something happen there. I didn't believe it. I didn't realize that it was that bad.
No.
I know it was bad, but I didn't know it was this bad. So it's pretty scary to me.
Recommendation number 11 is have bridge analyzed for maintenance vehicle loads and heavy pedestrian loads that are possible at events such as the Oregon Jamboree.
Yeah.
Maintenance priority urgent, next 6 to 12 months. Estimated cost is $20,000 for that.
Yeah. And it may not be a big deal. It might be fine. But I don't know that.
But
we
having
wanna-
somebody look at it. is
Yeah,
also-
I don't know that we want to take a chance. That's my opinion.
And
They can control a lot of stuff there and that would be.
At an event like the Jamboree, monitoring that and trying to enforce that is going to be very difficult.
I would,
I would recommend if it came to that and it was dangerous, we would want to close it off completely and have some other means, temporary means of crossing the Ames Creek to be provided. I don't even know how you
Yeah.
accomplish that though.
Behind Dollenberg Bridge and cut through that grass area and come around. You used to be, there's a gate. There was a gate there behind the Dollenberg Bridge that connected the school grounds to that grass area on the north side of Ames Creek.
so you come clear around the perimeter of
Yeah,
it.
you'd have to come around, go up 14th and then come back in. So I don't know if it's still there. I just know a long
Let's
time
have to
ago
look
I
at
went.
that.
and walked them. Yeah, so that's possibly an option. I don't know. I don't think it's on private property.
No.
The gate is, but
I don't,
I think we could cease vehicle immediately,
Do we even?
right away.
we
So
don't-
we don't even allow vehicles on there.
No, and we
Um,
don't, we have golf, yeah, the Jamboree has golf carts, but our public works don't put anything on there.
We have had vehicles on there, like when we painted and stuff, but we do not drive
Yeah,
up there.
So I think that's easy thing to do is just to stop that.
Yeah, there's bollards at each end that doesn't allow a vehicle, and I think that's something that we should talk internally about. You know, and as long as there's not heavy loads of people, you know, I'm not a structural engineer. I think we should have it looked at, but I think one of the things we could do immediately is not just limit it to pedestrians and maybe even limit it in volume of pedestrians. So just my thought.
I agree with the big vehicles, definitely, but I will, you know, in defense of the Jamboree, I would say, like, people can, they limit, you know, people can't come across the bridge with alcohol. There's different things, so they do have stop point. So I do know that. And, you know, if we just say 20 people at a time or whatever, I don't know, it's up to you guys, but you
Or
know,
just-
no vehicles.
Or just putting up something that restricts people to single file, that's gonna automatically
Yeah,
reduce.
whatever.
You put enough barriers on there. Hopefully they're not barriers that are so heavy that they cause a problem themselves.
Well, I think the issue too that you need to consider, and I think that's a valid point, to narrow it and use it as a passage, not for a shade where you're all of a sudden you got
Mhm.
200
No-
people packed in
No
on that
loitering
bridge.
on the bridge.
Right. But also no vehicles as well.
Something,
We'll have
yeah.
to figure it out.
They have, you know, another stage over there. There's a lot of activities. The vendors are over there. There's just tons of stuff that they take advantage in that park, which is a positive because there's shade there too.
and I see here on this page 19, recommendation 14 is limit bridge to 50 people. So they've got it in there.
Yeah.
Says 50 people until a load rating is performed.
Yeah.
So
So the Jamboree is not aware of this
Right.
report. I will send it out to Robert Shamik, but this next upcoming council meeting next Tuesday is going to be discussing the Jamboree and approval of their various street closures. And they're, you know, every year they come to the council with that big ask. So this, I will talk to our city manager about trying to get this into the meeting packet and making sure that this is brought up.
maybe that
during
recommendation
discussion.
is no motorized vehicles and limit of 50. Because that's what they're stating here. So I think that would be your first good guidelines to
Yeah.
put on that and put it out to other civic groups that may use that bridge
No
for
sitting on the
whatever.
bridge.
I would recommend narrowing passage only for passage. You narrow it and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They already put the cages up on the side, just create a passage walkway.
What about, we rent it out for weddings, events?
Typically, I don't get that.
You don't,
But
okay.
now that we have this, I can say it's limited
To
to
50,
50 people if you're gonna have more than. Or if they're just going to have the ceremony on the bridge, but the rest of the people are gonna be, I had that, they set up chairs in the plaza area and then they use the bridge.
Use the
backdrop.
Backdrop.
But that's just something I can add to the, if you're gonna rent the bridge, this is your one.
So I have a question, comment, maybe it's on somewhere down the road, but I'm on. So I know we're focusing on Upper Sankey, but is it possible, I know you're already working on the grant, but that we can switch and like work on the bridge instead?
No, the grant is already submitted. It's already gone through reviews, so I can't change it at this point. So we have to follow through with our match. If we don't, then we have to start all over again. There's possible ways that we can start looking at other grants in the meantime.
Okay.
But this one is specifically for the Bandstand Community Event Center and the paths going up.
Okay.
So at this point, it's already gone through the initial stage of review. So
And there's probably more money out there for a bridge
Yeah.
standing alone by itself than it is packaging it into something
agree.
yeah,
else.
and it's a historical structure. So that also, there's money for that. type of-
There's some historical grants out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I asked.
Get us, do as much as we can. Anything left on the Weddle Bridge you want to talk about before we move on? Okay. The next item on there was the Dollenberg Bridge.
Really nothing to update other than we are gonna try to get that removed within the next couple months or a month or so, try to get it out of that park and get it stored behind here somewhere. Public Works, this has only been internal Public Works conversation, right? But Dominic and I met yesterday. We drove out there, took a look at it. There was somebody that had a camp set up inside there this last week and was trespassed. And there's just, we don't want to leave it there. It's not doing us any good where it's at, how it's positioned. So I think we know that at some point we want to put it somewhere, whatever. So let's go ahead and get it out of there, maybe clean up some of that area when we get some opportunity. Could help with some of the passage that you were just talking about. But that's kind of the only update I have. I think the individuals wanted to use it for a parade. I'm not sure they want to do that anymore, but they're still willing to help us get it moved, I believe. So.
Okay. Thanks, Greg. And Matt and Josh, are you familiar with the Dollenberg Bridge?
Just that you're gonna move it. The plan is to move it.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, all right. Next item on there is the Lower Sankey Park Donor Celebration.
All right, good news. The memorial stone is done. It has carved. I have spoken to our Public Works and they're going to, as soon as the concrete slab gets poured, we will place the memorial stone. So however, the event, I know we were trying to make it to where it's a kind of around the anniversary of the bridge being placed, but there are multiple conflicts in the park that day, and we have not sent out the invitations yet. So it was easier for me just to change the date than to try to deal with multiple events in the park at the same time. So ours is now going to be July 29th instead. And I'm working on the invitations. I will send out physical invitations to all of the donors and to the grant funders. And then for the public, we will post it on our Facebook and like in the New Era and that type of thing. But the actual donors will get physical invitations, and I have a draft going, but this is not finalized yet. We are hoping to have the mayor do a speech. I've already talked to her. She says she's willing to do that. And as it gets a little bit closer, we'll talk about other things that we want to do. I just needed to let you all know that we had to change the date because it was too hard to try to sort everybody out And it was just easier for us to change it. So since nobody but us knew what the date was anyway. So hopefully that works for everybody, and then we will celebrate that, and it will be a good time even at that point to talk about the bridge. We can talk about the bridge at that point also as we're doing the donor. We'll be talking about the new, hopefully by that time we'll have something drawn up that we can show the new project also, and then we can talk about the bridge. So we can kind of tie a lot in to, do the celebration, talk about the plaza, do all of that, and then we can have maybe some materials there to talk about the future. And then that way we can kind of tie it all together. But just wanted to let you guys know the update. Sorry to have to change it, but it made it easier than, finagling and making people figure out which event is which. So.
No, I appreciate that, and just, keep us informed and how we could help during that event. I mean, I'm sure all this group would help getting information out or setting up or whatever needs to be done. So
Yep.
just keep us informed.
Yep, I will.
Okay, ivy removal. I personally know something about that, a few of us. It's not an easy task. No, we met up there and had our various tools. I think that's the thing is, what tools do you really bring to attack ivy? I think I should have brought a herd of goats, would have been a little bit easier. But no, we made some progress. It was hard work to get in there. The landscape is not the most flat ground, and you find things in ivy that you didn't know was there. And but Matt, he got in there and dug around I think the holly got the best of him though.
Yeah.
But we made progress. It was, like I said, it was tough pulling it back away from some of the trees. It'll be up to, I guess, getting with Public Works. I really wanted to run home and just get on my Kubota and come over there at the bucket with that scraper teeth on it and just start scraping. I thought, well, I don't think Greg and the group would probably like Bob loose on a tractor over there, but I would have probably removed a lot of more ivy out of there than what we did by hand. But it's a tangled up mess in there, but it definitely was a first step. So I think that's the thing was, we each kind of had our own ideas of what tools to bring. I mean, I came with a pickaxe. I knew what I was up against,
Yeah.
I left the machete in the pickup, but I did definitely do some damage to it that day. But it wasn't a good day for me to start out because I just switched me on blood pressure mess, and I got in there and right off the bat, I just thought, whoa, that ivy's a different color. So I had to sit down and pound a lot of water down. So it was a
Mr. Chairman,
tough start. Yes.
I would like to propose that we get a workshop together at least once a month. If I'd like to try for once a month to do that, Ivy. To cut it back, like you were doing, especially what you were doing, getting a good start on it.
Yeah. Well, I think some of that is identifying the right tools we need to be using. I think the group worked well. Didn't have to, they just let them loose. But I think working with Greg a little bit too and get some feedback from your group is would help complement us on some of that as well.
If it's planned out and if it's during the week, obviously we could have Sean or somebody out there to work with you guys a little bit. A little bit of pre-planning, and we've got a lot of things going on.
Oh,
so
fully understand.
They're vacant today. But so anyway, if we can pre-plan it, then we can make that happen.
Like I said, it wasn't bad. We only, 2.5 hours we spent in there, and we did some damage to the ivy, but again, it's just kind of coordinate the group here and have a set of tools ready for them, because everybody, like I said, brings their own. Some's got hand snippers where you really need to get more aggressive with ivy, but
I think first step, getting it off the tree so it's not pulling those trees down, because some of those trees are getting big and they're nice. And
there's actually a few trees in there that we felt some of the plants and that ought to be just taken out. I mean, there's a dead oak in there, a little skinny oak that just needs to come out. That's crowded.
And those are just things that we can do, right?
Some of the other brush that's not ivy, but it's just volunteer brush in there that could probably come out besides the ivy as well and really make that. It really opened it up. That's, I think, what we noticed was once we were doing ivy, but then we noticed other things that could come out that would probably really open that up to see through right into the park, upper park.
There's several rhododendrons scattered
Didn't even know they were
throughout.
there. They're there. But yeah, some of the holly probably needs to be thin too. So anyway, good job for all of those that did show up and looking.
So
So-
like to thank Luke and Ashley for being there.
Yes.
For you guys helping us.
Thank you guys.
Thank you very much.
So when you guys, if you talk about a date, just let me know. And just be aware, and I know Lena knows plant ID. It is a natural resource zone. So there are restrictions of what types of plants and how to take them out. And so, I mean, thinning is okay, but there are rules on
Yep.
those type of areas of what you can and cannot do. So
And
just keep
that's
that-
where we need your help.
Ivy is definitely an
Yeah.
invasive, so that's not a big deal. But there are some other ones. You're allowed to thin, but there's kind of a restriction on what. So if you ever have questions about that, we do have a natural resource zone code. And you can read through that and just see what you can and can't do in there. So for the most part, what you're doing is not affected or won't.
Well,
have
like I
any
said,
issue.
that's where we'll need help, support from Greg and your group is what we can and cannot do in there.
Yep.
But
She knows everything.
Matt,
What are the chances of getting high school students to volunteer?
Good luck.
Yeah.
well, I think
Yeah.
For this particular meeting, it was during school hours, so that's probably not wouldn't work for them, but
there are contacts at the school and they do have the natural resource instructor. Actually, I've heard he's moving on though. But getting a hold of those teachers and maybe getting stuff out. There's going to be a volunteer fair. I don't remember the exact date, but here soon.
June 3rd.
Yeah.
And actually on the last topic, on the ivy removal topic, that is one of the things that we were talking about is specifically soliciting volunteers for Park and Tree Committee work crew projects and
Great.
beautification committee as well.
and keep in mind when we do talk about volunteers, there's a process for volunteers and applications or forms to fill out to protect not only this group, but them as well. So there's that volunteer piece. Okay, I guess we're up to the grant, Angela.
Yep. As you read in the email, we got through the technical phase. So Ryan and I will be working on the presentation. It will be a virtual presentation this year. We will not be going to their office this year. So Ryan and I are going to be working on that, and you all are tasked with the donor, trying to find donors between now and then. It is up on the website. If you go to the website, there's a banner at the top, and if you scroll through there, there's a direct link to it. They can fill out the form and they can pay directly online, or they can come in and get a form if they want to. So we need to push that. The more donations that we have by the time we do the presentation, they haven't sent me, they told me the tentative dates, but they will be sending me a calendar at some point to pick which times on those 2 days, and then we will go from there. But it's at the end of July, no, end of June.
End of June.
And so we'll be pushing to get that done, but we really need to push this donor campaign. So I had Adam put it on, I think I've had him put it on Facebook once already, but we'll be pushing it, and I'll be doing some sort of press release here shortly to get that done.
Angela, in that grant, if I remember right, wasn't it the portion we need to really target is that 60-some thousand?
Yes.
66, I think, somewhere right in there.
Yeah.
I've actually, for myself, in fact, I sent out an email again yesterday because I had kind of thrown that out there at a dinner gathering, and Samaritan has shown an interest.
Okay.
Cascade Timber has shown an interest. So those are the two that I'm kind of working currently. I just told Dave that I sent out a second email with another set of hooks and worms on it to get some feedback, but they definitely had shown interest, and that was really what I was after was, do you have an interest?
Yeah, and we don't have to have the whole 66 by that time, but if we can show we are making a valiant effort to raise the funds and show that our community is behind us, then that bodes well for us. That was one of the kickers that we had last time when we did the presentation, is that we had a lot of that already taken care of by the time we got there. And we were able to show them that we were pretty much shovel ready. We already had our design. This time we because of the slope, we are actually going to have engineering services this time because of the slope of the hill and being able to do the paths going up the hill, making it ADA compliant. So that's an extra fee that we're going to have this time compared to last time. We didn't have to have any kind of engineering done. This time we will. So, so just being able to show the interest, show that we have the community behind us, show that we have the tools and the staff, which we do. Some of it is not going to be able to be done by staff this time. Some of it's, well, actually the majority of it. I mean, there's some prep work that staff is going to be able to do, but a lot of this is going to have to be done out of house this time.
So on this grant, I mean, one of the pieces of that, of course, is the stage and community event center. We talked about, could a person hang their hat on that puts a large donation. We had that discussion, but one things I noticed, because I'm on the financial board for Samaritan for this new clinic here. One thing they're doing is that donor wall, and I thought that's kind of a neat touch in a way for gathering money, that when they broke down the amount you could give, it was 1,000 got you here, 2,000 got you here, 3,000. So the donor wall, I mean, that's what they're doing in the new Samaritan Clinic. And I don't know if that's a possibility for us looking at this project. It's kind of like that monument, I guess, is what I'm getting at. If you donate a minimum of 500, your name goes here. It kind of farther up the line in a sense. But the new donor wall for Samaritan up there, they went all out on that. When you walk inside that new facility, it's quite impressive. But it was a kind of an interesting way to get people to donate. I mean, you could donate $1 if you wanted to, but if you really wanted to up your game and donate 1,000, you could actually get put on a donor wall or something, or a plaque or whatever. So it might be a thought.
With the design of the structure, we've been talking about having it the floor of the structure at grade on the hillside and then have it above grade on the other side. And so with that above grade portion, I mean, there's a wall right there.
I mean, I don't know what your wall is going to be built out. It's going to be concrete bricks, but even if you had an inlaid tile or something with a person's name on it, that might be a really nice compliment to people that are given larger amounts of money versus just hanging the name. But so anyway, food for thought. So what do you need? Anything from us? Just really this group here, just pushing on the donors.
It's at this point, it's just a all out valiant effort to push it because we have about a month before, a little over a month before the presentation. So, and the numbers, we can throw that in right at the last minute, whatever numbers we have, we can kind of have a placeholder to talk about it, and just throw that in at the last minute. So, but I definitely want to be able to say something.
Yeah.
And then that way it definitely shows that we have the community backing on this, and we do verbally have the community backing, and the council backing, but we need, it'd be nice to show a monetary.
And I think it'll be there more that if you get this out publicly in the newspaper that this is coming, I think you'll see more people, have an interest in this. Because right now it's just been pretty much this group.
Yeah.
Do we have a date for that presentation?
It was either, I think, the 26th or the 27th, but I don't have, they're supposed to send me a calendar and updates I can choose from. I have like a first, second, third choice, and then they'll tell me which one we get. So
Okay. A month and a half.
Did you say you've put it out onto Facebook or not yet?
I think Adam announced it. I don't know. I'll have to go back and check
think
and see.
there was
I
an
think
announcement.
I think he announced that we got through the technical phase. So
So just some way to keep it front and center within the community. What about just, reminders at city council meetings?
looking at YouTube.
And good job, by the way. That was a lot of work in a short amount of time. So nice work on the grant, Angela.
Well, it's not just me. Ryan helped out
And
a
Ryan.
lot. So have you guys met Ryan yet?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, Ryan.
Did I mean?
Not
Ryan has-
officially, but
Yeah.
he's a tall guy with the,
Beard?
Yeah.
Well, we have a few of those, but yeah.
Well,
Two, but they seem like more.
Yeah. So, no, he's,
on his beard.
yeah.
Not like that. I can't compete.
No, he's helped me out quite a bit. He has a background with similar natural resource experience like I do. And so he's really good at doing that stuff. And he knows a lot about grants. He's done a lot of grants. So he will be helping me with the presentation. Also, he has some great ideas for the presentation. And so we will start working on that. So
Okay, thank you, Angela.
Is he gonna use the drone and have like this?
So
area-
Adam and I talked about that. Adam and I went out there. The problem with the drone is we have too many trees right up in that area and being able to get the drone up in through there. So Adam said it's gonna be too hard to get the drone up in there.
You
So
gotta fly it higher.
But an aerial view would be bad.
I think we have an aerial view of it. I'll have to, because he did some like during Harvest Festival and
Yeah.
whatnot. And I think we might have a way up there view of it. So, but we do have a lot of tree cover.
How bad could it be if he hit a few trees when it's flying around in there?
Yeah.
Not gonna do anything to the trees.
Okay, we'll move on to the Park and Tree Committee Workshop recap. And that's gonna have to be somebody besides me, because I did not make it because I was gone. Whoever was there that could talk about that.
You there? I was absolutely there. Hey, but I get lost for words when you put me on the spot like that.
Yeah, no, you go ahead. Come on.
Are you sure you guys even met?
Yes, we did.
I know you were all here.
I'll add to it.
Yes.
So we met. And we talked about, basically, we talked about having a walk trail. Because we've talked about it before. And with that, we talked about what we could name these pocket parks. Because, a long time ago, we did talk about walking and
Yeah,
so-
Wally sent me an email to talk about that under new business, so.
well, that
That-
was
that
part of
piece of
our recap, part of our recap meeting.
Yeah.
So go ahead, next.
So the idea at 10th and Elm, right, 10th and Elm, was to use that park and put a couple benches. We did come up with a name that we would like to submit at some point in the near future for that park. And instead of like a trail, it would just be kind of a path that took us from the parks at like 10th and Elm up to the one by Strawberry, the city one at Osage and 20 there, and then the one at 12th and Nandina, including Northside in that, and just maybe having some kiosks with where the parks are located, the names, people can view them, have benches there so they can sit and just kind of hang out, and then have different mileages posted on the kiosks of if they want to walk and visit parks, they can do that.
Perfect.
So if,
Yeah, see how that's done?
so if one of you could write up a summary of what you all talked about and kind of, so I can have
I
a,
think Wally took minutes.
But did take notes.
I'll reach out to Wally and see if he
okay,
can't
yeah,
put that
if we can
together.
just get a summary and then I can kind of try to put that together and we can kind of review it. So if that would be okay with you guys.
Part of it was brainstorming the names for the
Right.
pocket park. So the one at 10th and Elm, I think we kind of lean towards Walkabout.
Walkabout Park.
Walkabout Park.
Yep, that's what he has on his email to me,
And then the weird little area
halfway.
by,
Wolf and Nandina.
yeah,
Well, in Indiana.
halfway because it's halfway to anywhere.
Yeah.
You're halfway there.
Halfway to North Side,
Yeah, that
halfway to
makes sense.
Safeway.
With our kiosks and stuff, yeah, it's good.
You sure you didn't want to put up a sign that just says you are here, Park? You know where you're at.
That one's an awkward piece of property though, there, the halfway park. It's just,
Yeah, most of the discussion on that one was that with the trailer parks and that stuff that are off of Tamarack, that's about halfway for people to Safeway to be able to just kind of sit and rest and hang out while they're walking to the store or Dairy Queen or wherever they're headed.
Thank you, Josh. Anybody else have anything on
But
that?
keep spending with, because we have the trail off of Elm, kind of out of the way, but it's already there. And then I know Blair's talked about it before, that somewhere down the road, the city's gonna have along Ames Creek that goes.
We want to have
I
a,
know, that's why I said
extension.
somewhere down the
Yeah.
road. That would be another part later on, a walking park. You guys know where that is along, should be from like Mountain View, there's 18th, Mountain View, and then there's the little creek. That is city
it's
property.
Ames Creek.
That's
Well,
city
I know
property.
there's been talk.
Some of
just
it's
think
city
of it.
property, some of it's,
Yeah, some of it's private.
some of
Right.
it's private, but there are easements along there that are that keep it from being ever developed, and it's got to be a wetland and things like that. But I think there's room for some sort of trail to go through there.
That would lead up into the other one that goes.
Hopefully, if we could get that done, we could make some connection all the way to Hobart,
Mhm.
which would be really cool. But that'd be a big project.
Anything else under that?
Yes.
And I'll touch bases on that a little bit under new business because Wally sent me his email. You've already talked about it, so.
Yeah.
But go ahead if you got
So
some.
I was just wondering. When we're gonna vote on that.
Probably shortly.
Okay.
So
I didn't want to pass
that
it.
brings us down to the park system master plan.
We've met with, we're starting to meet once a month with our consultants that are working on the park system master plan update. And things are progressing fairly smoothly so far. We have passed on all of your, or are passing on all of your contact information to them because they'll be reaching out to folks to do stakeholder interviews. And so if you get a weird phone call from a number you don't recognize or an email from somebody you don't recognize, that might be it. So please pay
What kind of
attention.
interview?
Stakeholder interviews. In other words, people who have a stake in the project or people who have an interest in parks. And obviously, everybody who lives in the community has an interest in it, but the idea is to capture people who are actively working on parks or represent a particular group. Like we're connecting them with the senior center, with the Boys and Girls Club. I need to get them some contact information to the school district. And beautification committee as well. We want to have them represented. And then I think we're even connecting them with Dave Bauer at Steelhead Fitness and whatever. If you know of any fitness groups or biking groups or trail groups that should be represented or may want to talk to these folks, please let me know. Because we don't always know that those groups exist. Sometimes they just do their own thing.
Are they still walking from the library? They started that.
So the library that's a library program, and we can make sure that's included as well.
I think it's funded by the,
I believe there was a grant that,
from the
Yeah.
Oregon Health Planner, not OHSU, I think,
Mhm.
yeah.
So Blair, who did you say this group was again?
so Cameron McCarthy is the name of the firm. They're out of Eugene. And then Elizabeth, I don't know how to pronounce her last name. It's a weird spelling.
I just want to make sure when my cell phone lights up, it
Elizabeth-
says scam
Elizabeth-
possible. I want to not hang up on
Yeah,
this person.
exactly.
Elizabeth Auvil, Auvil, is the lead, and Colin MacArthur is the other person working on it. They both are from a firm called Cameron McCarthy out of Eugene.
So if it's from Eugene, it's possibly them.
Could be. Yeah.
I had one the other day on my phone from Beijing and I wasn't sure if that was,
That's not it.
I needed to pick it up or
Which
not.
this is entirely a domestically sourced project.
Not outsourced.
No, yeah. Have folks from India call you about this. Yeah.
And on that note, do you happen to have a contact list for beautification committee? Rebecca doesn't, and I asked Patty and Patty only gave me her
So you
information.
need that.
So, well, yeah, so we can add it to
If-
this list.
if
So
you've
the
got
only
it, we'd
one I
love to
have
have
is
it.
Patty's. The only person that they sent the list to. And so if you have the contact list for everybody else, that would be great because we could add them.
I'll see if I can't run that up for you.
Okay.
I would like to say that I get contact for Ashley and they are not contacting her directly. So she's been
beautification
doing
committee,
this for
isn't it?
about 4 years, so yeah, beautification.
Hmm.
So I think, and Ashley's given them her email several times, so I don't know who else.
Sounds like there's some communication work to be
Yeah.
done overall.
Well, I wanted one the other day just on this group and I was scrambling. I was trying to piece together and I didn't have it all.
Oh.
And I'm like,
Oh, for this committee?
for this
Oh,
committee
well,
here.
we have
I'm
a
like,
current roster that we can.
We
send
do.
out to
I just
everybody.
have to correct it.
that'd be kind of handy because like with
Yeah.
Josh and Matt is
Yeah.
having, I put them in my phone. I want to,
What I'll do is I'll do the corrections on here and then I'll send out phone numbers and emails.
And my wife reminded me, you don't have a contact list, and I got whipped a second time, so.
Yeah, so
anyway.
putting a beautification committee list would be great. And then that way we can invite them to different things and
Yeah.
have them for this. So,
Because I will say, because Ashley's not gonna go to the microphone, so that's what she feedback to me. So sometimes they don't know about stuff.
Yeah.
All of them. So that would be really helpful.
Okay. Anything else, Blair?
On the park system master plan, that's kind of the current status.
Okay.
We're excited for more to happen.
Well, the next piece of business is new business, and Wally had sent me email. So the new business that I see missing is the walking routes from park to park, and we need to get someone to make a motion to do it and vote on it and make it happen. So, like I said, I wasn't in on that conversation. And the other one was the two names for the parks, the Walkabout Park and Halfway Park. We shouldn't have the forms filled out, but we need to vote, so we need to fill them in afterwards. So,
So we can, I mean, if you want us to fill in those names and submit a report, you can vote to direct us to do that, and that'll start the naming process.
so
Because we did agree at the meeting that we liked that. We were supposed to come here and vote on it.
do we have it?
I believe for us to be able to vote to send it to city council, the application has to be filled out.
So, I mean, it's a pretty, we can certainly prepare the application if you want to wait until the applications are done and then you'd vote on it at that time. That's perfectly fine with us.
Good with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
we can
Okay.
bring it to the next meeting.
I thought at the workshop, Wally said he was gonna submit those for us to be able to
Yeah,
vote.
he-
That was my understanding.
Yeah, he didn't have that, so.
Yeah, we were not prepared for that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll get prepared.
Okay.
Anything else under new business? Other than what, well, we know what we got going there, so I guess the very last item on this is any items on that were not on the agenda someone wants to talk about.
Mr. Chair, go.
Oh, sorry.
Who's first? I don't care. I just want to let you guys know that our city manager got crazy about opening up the Quarry Park for camping, and that's going to start happening in the middle of June. And so I just want to let that's kind of, yeah, yes, we'd like to have that happen. If it doesn't, then that's a whole different story. But we, in my opinion, we've wasted that property for decades. We should have done this many years ago, and it didn't happen for, I won't get into that too much, but we should have been using that for years ago. And so that's what we're going to try to do. And so hopefully that works out. If it doesn't, then whatever happens, happens.
That's one item. I can update you also on that property
Yeah.
as well.
Well, I know we kind of said to each other, we haven't heard much about that, and that's considered a park, so we were wondering about that.
So it's kind of a gray area. It's not officially considered a park yet. I mean, it's city-owned property that has to be used for public use. And right now people use it, and it's kind of a don't ask, don't tell situation where we don't care if people come on to the park as long as they don't abuse it. And so we are working toward getting it usable for camping.
Yeah.
One of the things that needs to be done before anything can really be developed there or any dirt moved is that the wetlands need to be delineated. There is not a current wetland delineation for that whole property. And so we did recently reach out to a bunch of firms, and we just recently signed a contract with a firm to do the wetland delineation. He'll be out there as soon as next week doing field work. However, just to make everybody aware and drive this home, wetland delineations can take a very long time because the firm, the gentleman, the professional who's doing the work can do all the field work and prepare everything, but then has to submit it to the Department of State Lands for a concurrence, mainly to make sure that they agree with what he's set out. And so that can take 6 months or more, which is frustrating that it takes that long, but that's until the wetlands are delineated, you don't know where you can actually dig. You don't know where you can disturb. And so it makes development of the property very difficult, and possibly illegal because you don't know. So that's all moving forward, and we hope to have that delineation done as soon as possible, but it's going to be a little while. So that's the main limiting factor for.
So that
any
has to be
development of the
done
property.
before you can even
Yes.
open the gate and say.
So now
Yeah, that's, oh, excuse
the
me.
camping that we have, our tentative plan for any camping there is on areas that are very dry, that are dry pretty much year round. We're fairly confident that they are usable but also we are not turning any dirt. These are areas that exist the way they are. We're not grading them. We're not digging anything. And so any spaces for camping are just going to be marked out with paint and have, fire pits placed on the ground and so those aren't counted as filling in anything. It's just using them as in the existing condition.
To add to that also, there will be signs up talking about, not removing vegetation because it is. So if you are not aware, this property has a wetland, a floodplain, and a riparian zone, which are the three biggies. So it's got all three. Parts of it we also have to work with the Army Corps of Engineer, the part that surrounds the river. We have Department of State Lands. And so there's a whole lot of stuff that we have to deal with before we can actually move. We've talked about there'll be limited camping spaces, not very many, that we can fit in a possible area that is without all that. We also have some significant wetlands. There is also a bald eagle nest that has to have a buffer around it. So this site is a great natural resource site, but it does have some restrictions. And until this delineation gets done, we can't move forward with a lot of it.
The other thing is once we have an area identified and open for paid camping, we have to have the rest of the area open to the public regardless of whether you pay or not. And the reasons for that are recreational immunity. Right now, if you go to a park and you injure yourself, you cannot sue the city because the city has what's called recreational immunity. Essentially, that means we have made this area open, available to the public for free. You don't have to pay anything for it. And so you are responsible for yourself. That's Oregon state law. Doesn't exist in some other states, but that's the way it is in Oregon. And it was threatened a few years ago and the legislature put it back in. And so it's really good for us. We want to make sure that we have recreational immunity for that property because we don't want anybody swimming in the ponds and getting injured and then telling us the city, hey, it's your fault for not making it safe. We're saying, no, that's open to the public and we have immunity over that. If you charge people to use a portion of a park, that portion that they get access to just because they paid, you no longer have recreational immunity for that because people are paying to come in and use it, and it's expected that there is some development that has been done to ensure that it's safe. And so what we're going to have to do is outline this area. Here is the camping area. This is what you're paying for, is this one camping area. All this other stuff, that's free and open to the public. And so recreational immunity applies to all those other areas, except for the one designated camping spot.
And I don't think we're going to try to put 100 of them out there.
No, I think it's like 20 at the moment.
Yeah. And if you've ever been there, when you go through that gate, it's flat forever.
Mhm.
Well, not forever, but it's a pretty big spot and it's all gravel. There's nothing else there. And it's going to be away from the water. I hope it works. I do. And I understood what Blair talked about because the water thing is a completely different thing,
Mhm.
And it's got a lot of things that we could do there, providing we can do that. But there's a lot of things that we can have done there for walking and trails and all kinds of stuff. I've never seen that bald eagle. I got to find out where that is. But that'd be pretty cool too.
I didn't see where the nest was when we were out walking around last week,
I can show you.
and there was definitely an eagle circling. So that's
So-
pretty cool.
Anyway,
As you move forward and you got housing around that area, is there an issue that you have to contact the neighbors in this area this is your proposal and they get a say yay or nay, or maybe they don't want this thing in their backyard? I don't know. I'm just
Because
asking
of
a
how it's
question.
zoned, it is outright permitted.
Now, a lot of times cities have, that's why you have a parks master plan. That's why you have park planning, to essentially give an opportunity for people to voice their opinion on where park facilities are located and what they are and stuff like that. And so there will be a public process for that. It's
Yeah, and
moving
that's what I was
forward.
driving at.
And that's really
Public
the
has an
main,
opportunity to
anybody who
say,
has any concerns, we certainly want people to participate in the process. And so we'll kind of handle it through that process.
That's a pretty big project down there, and you know, just the roadway itself and the increase of traffic and things. I could just
Well, the way I understand it, to get water and a sewer down there, it's got to be all the way back up to Clark Mill. And so that's going to be a huge thing at some point.
Yeah.
Not everybody camps because they have water and all that stuff. They camp just to be camping. So, and especially with the potential of the things that you can do around that property, we've wasted a lot of time, in my opinion, a lot of time. And I can't give you an answer why we haven't done that sooner, but I think it's a start for that.
Well, I
property.
remember seeing the original drawings for that
Mhm.
property and what was being proposed. And that's been some
Yeah.
time ago.
Yeah, those could be available to you guys if you wanted to get those, because
Well-
Joe put out a great big thing about parking.
Access to the property is going to continue to be an issue. And I think that's
Yeah.
one of the main things that's prevented a lot of stuff up to this point is
Yeah.
access to the property.
Yeah.
All the plans up until recently have been geared toward a much larger development, a much larger facility that can't exist with the current access. What we're talking about now with a few camping spots is a relatively recent idea that we haven't been following before. But we still are going to be moving forward with trying to get better access into that property. The adjacent property owner to the south that owns the former Willamette Industries mill wants a right of way going through his property from 24th Street, from Main up 24th Street all the way up into our property. That's the plan, but we can't move forward with that until we have the no further action designation from DEQ, and that is expected sometime by the end of this year. There's methane testing that needs to be done on that property, and they couldn't do it earlier just because it was too wet. And now that it's dried out, they can start doing that methane testing.
So back to my original thing, so until it's official park, then we don't really have a part in it right now.
I mean,
This is the first I've heard about it, so I don't know where I've been, but
yeah, I mean, I think I guess there's not any documentation with anybody's vote that says this is now a park and park rules apply for it. We're moving toward that. I think that the Park and Tree Committee should certainly be involved because it's a park facility. And I would recommend the park master plan process as being that mechanism to get it designated as a park, first of all, and then have the amenities desired designated through a public planning process.
Yeah.
And just a reminder, the plan that was proposed years ago, and Joe drew up a beautiful plan. It is a proposed plan, and there is good chance it will change.
Mm-hmm.
So just to everybody to keep that in mind, that it is a fabulous plan and he did a beautiful job with it, but that may or probably won't be the final plan.
Right.
But I just want to make everybody aware of that through the public process and through this master parks plan, that will be more identified of what's going to be in there. So.
Well, and that the plan that we have is a really good plan. It is. But the thing that we've just been talking about, it might put a whole kibosh to that whole thing because we were going to put the jamboree there. Maybe we can't do that. Maybe we don't have enough room. Maybe we don't, all those things could happen to us. But I think this is in my opinion, it's a good start. And I think we should have done it many years ago. I don't care what we might call those parks. I don't really care. But my question about that is the fact that if somebody puts a lot of money into that park, just like we're talking about some other things, then I think that should be put off. I don't mind if we call it the quarry park. I don't care. But it seems to me like we've wasted a lot of time. a lot of time.
Well, it's a good piece of property. It's in a good location.
Yep.
You know, I always advocated, why were we not doing something like what Sisters did with one of their parks? Their city park has camping in it. And I'm like, why are we not doing that here? You know,
Yeah.
that's a revenue into the city for future projects and that. So to me, it's a
Well,
it's
yeah,
a golden egg in a sense.
Access is still an issue. I mean,
Yeah.
Zelkova is the only, and it's a narrow road and so it is an issue to get masses amounts of traffic in there. So
Yeah.
that's still kind of a limited, that limits us a little bit for what we can do besides the delineation and everything else that needs to get done. So
So that, where will that end up being updated into the master plan kind of?
So
Joined in.
the master plan will, the park system master plan is supposed to outline all of the, all the places where we have parks and where we want to have parks. And then it usually, a master plan has various categories of parks, neighborhood park, large city park, some regional parks is a category. It really depends. What it all goes to is who is that park attracting and what is the main audience for that park. And so with the master plan that we're putting forward, we want to have that property, one, designated as a park, and two, put into some sort of category that says this is a regional park intended to draw people from essentially statewide, because this is not a park that is just for little Billy to ride his bike down to and play on this and swing on the swings or play basketball. This is something much bigger than that, and having that a framework for what that is, the park system master plan is a good mechanism for doing that.
So does it have to be designated a park before we can move? And who does that?
Oh, I don't know that.
Or
Well,
can we
first
just
of
do
all, it's city owned, and so the city can do what it wishes as long as
Okay.
it's within the regulatory environment that we are with DSL and the Army Corps and everything like that. So the city manager has control over city property, of course, limited by budget, et cetera. Once it's designated as a park, then the park rules would apply to it, and it would open it up for different grant opportunities that park and Rec-
And my question was, who designates it? Is that the council? Goes in front of the council and they designate it? Who designates it as a park?
I would say that the intent with the park system master plan is to have it an officially adopted document that is essentially has the weight of ordinance behind it. And so that would be, I don't know if that's the only way to designate it a park, but that's certainly a way to designate it as a park.
the other thing we are doing right now, and many of you may have received my notice letter, the 1,642 that I sent out. All of the city property right now is we are changing the zoning to public. We now have a public zone criteria. Majority of our properties are either residential or commercial, which restricts. We still have to, I have to do a conditional use application to approve any work that we do on them because they're zoned the wrong thing. So once this is completed, it actually goes in front of city council next week for the first hearing. Once that is done, it will all be zoned public. So we will actually be able to do work on these without having to go through all the extra steps of working through that. So that's even though that was pain and suffering for 2 weeks for me to do that, but it will be worth it in the end to make sure that we are, it's the historical uses of the properties anyway. We're just making sure, we're just cleaning up is what it is, but it will make it easier to do development on our own properties because it will be zoned properly. Right now I have to do, if it's in the R1 zone, we have the setback requirements of the R1 zone. I still have to follow it despite the fact that it's a public facility. So this will make it a little bit easier for us to do public structures, public, work on the properties. So that is currently, it should be fully passed by July, end of June, I think will be the third meeting. So, so that's also going to help.
Dominic and I were down there the other day and don't tell him I said this, but he gave us the things that we have that are very positive. We have a river. Oh, excuse me. We have a river. We have 3, well, I'm not going to call ponds anymore. I'm going to call them lakes. And all that property is wide open, and not wide open, but it's for us to use. And I think that's really a good thing. The last thing I want to say today is the fact that these guys, Angela, and Blair and the staff has done an amazing job. I can't imagine the stuff that they have to go through to get to his point, what in that whole thing that goes on. And I can't imagine what it's going to cost or what it's going to take to get the government stuff out of it. It could be a total mess. I hope it isn't that case, but I think this is a good start, at least my opinion. So, and I'm sorry you guys did not get that out quicker than this, because it just kind of came just like that. But anyway.
I did get the letter from the rezoning. And I was like, look at that. And I go, okay.
Anyway,
What do I do with
I
my
appreciate
property
I appreciate what they do.
Most people call me and they're like,
Yeah.
how does this?
What is
affect
this?
me?"
Like,
So
is my land still my land, or is this property a
and
park
the
now?
public works too. They've done an amazing job too. So I've got
All right. Anything else on the round table?
Just one quick question. So I've been hearing about the volunteer fair.
Mhm.
Can you just give us, what is it? What are you hoping to accomplish?
Thanks, Dave.
All I know is that it's June 3rd, and the intent of the volunteer fair is to have, essentially, it's in Sankey Park, and there'll be tables for any organization that is looking for volunteers, to have a table where people can learn about volunteer opportunities and sign up for whatever volunteer opportunity they want to. So there will be a city table that will have a number of opportunities for folks. I believe the FAC facility for the homelessness will have a table. A Rotary I think is the instigating organization for this volunteer fair. And so they will certainly have a table for their activities. I don't know who else will be involved, but essentially we're just trying to get people to help people know that it's
Find
there
volunteers.
and given opportunities to, because there's a lot of folks that want to find ways to help out in the community, but don't necessarily want the commitment of sitting on a board or anything like that. But hopefully we can find a volunteer opportunity that matches just about every need, because some people are looking for more than others.
I have the application at my desk. And so if you want times and all of that, just after this, I can go back and look at it
Who
and
do
tell you.
they contact if they want to set up a booth? Sorry, question was, who do they contact if they want a booth?
Come to my desk afterwards or come to the counter and I'll get that information out to you.
Isn't that with you in the chamber? You guys in the chamber?
I don't think the chamber is involved in this.
No, this is, no, I mean,
Rotary and
they're-
the city.
yeah, they're working with them, but I think it's primarily Rotary. But I have the application, so I can write down that information for you, or I can just send it out if you guys, I can email it out to everybody. Okay, I'll email it out to all of you guys, and so you have that information, so.
Yeah, and I think to your point, Blair, a lot of times the public doesn't know where the needs are.
Mhm.
You know, I remember when we did the huts for the Safe Camp, we had so many volunteers show up, it was like, where do we put them?
Yeah.
You know, and the skill sets were all different. I mean, that was that was a scary part of that project. We had people wanting to run nail guns and stuff that had never used a nail gun, and the first thing in through a boot, you know, so you learn real quick. Volunteering is an interesting process, but
I think that's what's unique about it, though, is there's so many people with so many different spectrums of
oh yeah,
talents that
there's
they can-
people of
they can-
all ages just
they can
wanted to
fill
be there.
in on stuff that you don't even know you need till they get there. So
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Well, and something as basic as ripping out ivy. I mean, it's not a huge learning curve for that. It just
No.
takes people to get out and work.
no, we could have used 10 more people. Yeah, 10 times.
I
But-
apologize for not being there. I
Oh, it's all right.
had a rough night at work and slept through my alarm.
You'll get round two. We saved some spots for you.
There's plenty more.
There's more than that. Anything else?
Just a real quick update. I don't know if you've noticed, but Public Works has done some nice pruning on the street trees on Long Street. So it's looking sharp out there. There are now some nice protective fences around the two elms at the North Side Dog Park, so we don't have dogs bouncing off our freshly planted trees. Those look good. I'm going to pick up and try to clean up and finish our tree inventory in our parks now that things have leafed out. So I've got clover is the one I haven't got to yet. Quick look at strawberry. There's some things I want to pick up in Sankey that we never finished. And then the North Side Park is the kind of the river portion. I didn't get that all finished last fall. So,
I don't know, you might want to get started on Quarry Park.
oh, good Lord. That's just going to be
Find
Good luck
those-
with that.
woodland. Woodland.
I,
We
I,
even
I think
Sankey
you
is
might want to,
definitely
yeah,
free.
with the
I'm-
quarry property,
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying,
wait a while.
Yeah.
look, there's gonna be some trees down there. I'm sure you need to know.
Can be probably several removed and
Yep.
others put in.
Josh, you had something?
what's the process for, I mean, I walk my dogs every morning and there's a lot of trees around town that are pushing people off of the sidewalk into the road to get around them and that kind of stuff. What's the process for getting those trimmed up and that sort of stuff?
Greg chime in, but the city right of way, one of the things with sidewalks is that the adjacent property owner has responsibility over to the sidewalk. And now, if somebody lets their vegetation on their property grow into the sidewalk, usually code compliance comes out and says, you got to trim that back because you're hampering the right of way. When it's a street tree, I don't know that it's all that different. The neighboring properties owners ultimately are responsible, but I don't know what capabilities we have.
So there's been a lot of conversation, especially recently, that, Public Works doesn't have control of sidewalks throughout the whole town, even in the downtown area, or trees. Those belong to the property owner that is adjacent to those for maintaining and so everybody does it differently, right? Everybody has a different perspective or at least an attention to what their business or their home looks like in front of their house. Right now, we've kind of stepped over what our requirements are or what we're required to do. And we've gone out in the downtown area and we're starting to clean sidewalks. We're starting to sucker trees and do some basic pruning to make them where people can pass underneath them. But a lot of those trees are pushing up sidewalks. And also the planter boxes are encroaching to even make them adequate sidewalks. So there's a lot of things that we need to look at and we're just not there yet. Ultimately, in a perfect world, we would have funding to take care of, maintain of all sidewalks, all trees in our right of way, but we don't. And we don't even have the responsibility in our ordinance. So with all that said, there is a push to start with our downtown area. I think we're utilizing code enforcement on properties where we get complaints and stuff like that. But there is a gap, especially in the residential area, of what we can do and we don't do.
I would say when there's an example of landscaping that is clearly the front yard of a house that is encroaching on the sidewalk, that is definitely a code complaint. And I encourage everyone to call that in and let our code officer know that that's a problem and that people can't get by. If it's something in the beauty strip that's between the sidewalk and the street, it makes it a little bit more of a gray area. Ultimately, that property owner is responsible still. They probably don't know it. And it can be an issue.
So if the tree is the business owner's responsibility, so if person decide they just want to go out there and chainsaw that tree down, they can do that then.
If it's within the right of way, though, they do need a right of way permit.
So there's where it gets foggy.
That's
So
like I said, there's gaps, right? I think there's areas that kind of leave it open for interpretation and how we're going to maintain it, make it look. But there's a new push. We have a new city manager that wants our downtown, wants our community to look well, wants people to take care of their properties. And so how do we get from here to here?
So you really need to back up all the way to start.
Well, we're going to start with and if you've noticed, we have already started with the downtown area. You've seen us out there pressure washing. We've done the medians. We're pruning trees. We're working towards, I attended a arts committee yesterday that's talking about downtown beautification, working at doing some painting, some buildings, having some colored schemes. So there's a lot of stuff that's happening with our downtown area. My hopes is that it's kind of like the broken windows theory, that people start catching on and want to start doing more and more with their properties. Because a lot of people take care of their properties
Yeah.
and they're nice to walk by. They take that on as their own. I do that in my home. But it's not uniform. And so there are gaps, right? And I think there's assumptions that the city is responsible for it. And we know based on our code that it's the homeowner's responsibility. So
So specifically with those issues that you noticed, are they people's landscaping encroaching?
Yeah, I mean, it's from businesses on Long Street, it's from private residences on Elm and through all the neighborhoods. I mean, I'm like right there by the Bohemian, in between the Bohemian and well, it used to be the barber shop, those trees. I mean, I have to walk on the very edge of the sidewalk to be able to walk underneath them. There's shoots from the ground all the way up that are sticking 4 feet out on the sidewalk.
I personally, as the public works director, recognize that gap. And that's one of the things that we've been working on. I think I even talked to Lena going back a few months ago, to actually help with some classes and some things that my guys, and we've already done the library parking lot. We've done Old City Hall. We're going to start going down Long Street but right now we're trying to get the concrete cleaned. We have some painting that has to occur. We have parking ticks that have to be done, the yellow curb.
It's never ending for
It's
you guys,
never
right?
ending.
Like, as soon as 1 year ends, the whole process starts
Right.
over again.
I'd say when in doubt, call it in.
Okay.
And report it to code of compliance and if he's able to do something about it, then he will, and it'll be on his list to get people to clean up their properties. If it's more of that gray area that we'll be working with Public Works, then that'll spur it forward too.
And for the downtown area, give us this summer, and I promise you, we're already working towards it. You'll see some changes with trees, and I even believe there's a few of them that need to come out, and we need to cut out some sections of concrete and do some things like that. So we're getting those on the list. We're building for that. We have in our upcoming budget a new cement mixer. There's some other things that we're preparing for, and so just know that give us this summer. I think you'll notice a difference in the downtown related to sidewalks, trees, and I still have some concerns about how big some of those planters are. And like, if you're asking somebody to have X amount of space for ADA, some of those passages are not compliant. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know what you're talking about, Josh, because I live just around from Elm Street, and I watch people do landscaping on their property. I'm going, and my wife and I, we walk so much and go, they planted a tree on the other side next to the street, and then they don't care about the trees no more. And you got these trees growing, they're unpruned, they're ugly, they take away. And then I watch someone over on this side of the sidewalk, they plant their shrubs right up next to the sidewalk with the little bark dust. I thought, do they understand these things grow? And it's going to be inside, and then it becomes someone else's problem. But so anything else? If not, call this meeting adjourned.
Thanks.